Welcome back to Aunt Janet's Kitchen. Today I'm here with my lovely baby sister Elise, and she once again is going to take us on the steps to cook a Middle Eastern dish called Maqloubeh. Did I say that right, Elise?
Yes, you did.
Okay. It's a type of, I would compare it to a type of stew. Would it be considered a stew? You're stewing the meat as you cook it, so.
I don't know. You would know more about that than me.
Okay, well, Elise is going to take us through the list of ingredients to start, and then we're going to begin with step one. So go to it, Elise. What do we have here today?
Okay, well over here I get beef that is usually used for stew. And so you can see, I don't know if you can see, but I'll tell you that it's a little fatty. And that is necessary because it's going to be boiled, and you always want your meat to be a little bit marbled, thanks Janet.
Right.
So it doesn't dry out. If it's too lean, it will dry out when you boil it.
At the same time, as we were comparing the quality of the meat at the store, some of it had thick bands of would have been tougher fat, not the nice marbled fat, like gristly fat. So you want to avoid that.
Okay. These are the spices we're going to be using: the bay leaf, cinnamon, allspice, and cloves. Also, we have the salt. We need 1 whole onion. We have our eggplant here, which, I have 4 small ones, or you can use 3 large ones. The smaller they are, the less seeds that are in them, so the more you can use, because you don't want a lot of seeds.
Right, and it flexes slightly when you squeeze it, so that you get a sense of the level of ripeness.
A little firm, yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit of push to it, and it's glossy and shiny.
And then we have whole almonds, and this is about 1.25 cups of whole almonds, and white rice. I do use the white rice versus the brown rice because brown rice takes too long to boil. So
it would toughen or dry out the meat. Okay, that makes sense.
And then we have the canola oil that we're going to fry the eggplant in. And I think that's it.
That's it. So we're ready to do step 1, which is to pour boiling water on the almonds.
Right. This is going to be the topping of the Mahlubay. And so I'm going to take the skins off these, and then we're going to toast them in the oven. Now some people do brown them in butter, but calorie-wise, I just toast them. I think they taste just as good.
Right, because the nuts have oils anyway, so
right.
That kind of intensified with the toasting. All right, so we're going to pour the boiling water on it, and it'll start to loosen the skins. So that's step 1.
Okay, here we go. We got the boiling water ready. And we just cover them about 1 inch. And then we'll just wait on that.
Let that sit to do its softening of the covering. Okay, so we put it to the side. We're ready to do?
We're going to cut up the eggplant.
Okay.
So here's my cutting board and my trusty red light, so you can see in the camera. You take off the top of the eggplant, and I try to save as much of the eggplant as I can, so I move that forward. Like that. And then you get just cut.
Okay, let's cut the top off, right?
And then you peel it. Try to take as little eggplant off, just you want the skin off.
Okay, well, we'll work on these eggplants, and when we're ready to start the next section, we'll tune back the next steps involved in this recipe. As Elise is cutting the eggplant to the right size for the dish, we have the frying pan warming up, getting nice and hot, with about 1/2 cup of canola oil. So Elise is going to demonstrate how we check out the eggplant, whether we need to cut the seeds out or if we can just slice it.
Okay, we just get it, cut it in half. Now you can see, this doesn't have many seeds. Okay, this isn't going to be bad. I'm not going to take these out. The larger the eggplant, the more seeds, and sometimes you'll have to cut it out. And I'll just show you how. I just would cut out right where the seeds are.
Almost like you would a zucchini or
Exactly.
a squash if you were going to remove the seeds from them. And it's pithier As the plant ages, it gets pithy like a zucchini? Is that why you
Yeah.
want to remove that?
And
Okay.
you don't want to eat seeds when you're
Right, okay.
your meal. Okay, then you cut the half in half, and then these are about 1/4 inch in width because the eggplant will shrink a little bit, and then I cut this in half. So that's not too shabby. I'll just take that little piece out though.
Because it seems a little pithy.
Yeah.
Actually, look, I can just pull that out. if I
Yeah,
want.
sometimes
Okay.
get rid of that.
All right, so
Okay,
we
that's a
have,
hidden, I'm gonna get rid of that.
okay. So you
There
can
we
kind
go.
of inspect it after you slice it if you need to get rid of some of the seeds. If it's a little pithier than at first glance it seemed to be.
Right.
Okay, and easy to cut, not a problem.
Easy to cut.
And while Elise does that, simultaneously, the almonds are ready. They've been, actually, we had to put a second bath of hot water to soften the skins. And the trick here is to hold the narrow end of the almond, squeeze it, and the almond pops out, and the skin, whoops, and the skin stays behind. So the water's hot, you gotta move quickly, otherwise you get burned fingers. And you don't wanna let it sit too long because it would get waterlogged, right, Elise?
Right.
The nuts would be waterlogged, so. And we are going to toast these nuts, but we wanna get the skins off, so I'll work at that while Elise finishes up cutting the eggplant, and the next step will be to fry the eggplant, right?
That's right.
All right, we're moving along. Remove the almond from the hot water. Pinch the narrow side, and the skin will just slip right off, and you can discard it. So you're pinching. Well, sometimes it comes off more completely than others, but it will remove very easily. There, that one came off in one little pinch. All right. Sometimes they stick at the top of the almond. You can just pull them off of there. Sometimes they come out quite nicely. So that's the technique. Takes a few minutes to do this part, but Elise's recommendation is to go to the trouble of blanching the almonds yourself rather than buying the blanched almonds in the store, because this is a much fresher almond to do it this way as opposed to the ones that are blanched already. But I guess if you wanted to take a shortcut, you could use the other, right, Elise?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so she's busy frying the eggplant. We're gonna go take a look at it. Wow, Elise, that's really hot grease. So you definitely wanna make sure it's heated before you start putting the eggplant in. As soon as you put those eggplants in, they were sizzling, so.
Right, if the oil is not hot enough, the eggplant will absorb too much oil and it will taste really raunchy, so.
Okay,
And I'm not adding, sometimes when you add a lot of pieces, the temperature of the oil decreases and then they'll absorb more. So you have to be really careful. There should always be bubbling.
okay.
So-
All right, and then after they get, you wanna show the degree of brownness. They're pretty brown. Okay, and you're gonna drain it on paper towels.
Yeah.
And then, I guess, let the oil sit for a little longer to build up more heat before you add more.
Exactly.
So this step does take quite a bit of time. You have a lot of eggplant there.
Right, I guess you could do 2 frying pans, but I can't keep.
Track of 2 frying pans?
I'm not that quick.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it fried up pretty quickly. All right, so we're gonna continue frying all this eggplant, and we'll check in when we're ready for the next step. All right, Elise has just about 1/4 inch of oil in this frying pan. Oh, and that is hot. That's what you want to see. Okay. Make sure you don't crowd the frying pan and keep it sizzling. Elise, I have a question here. Is this something, can you cut these eggplant ahead of time and let them in the fridge, or do they brown like some
They
other?
brown.
They brown, so
They
you need
brown.
to cut them and fry them,
Right.
okay? Just thought I'd check.
Yeah, and you can tell, if you can see in there how it's browning on the sides, you know it's time to flip it.
Oh, good tip, okay. Boy, that one really browned quickly.
And that's a good sign, that means you have the oil hot enough. If it
Okay.
takes too long to brown, then your oil wasn't hot enough.
Okay, and you really do have to watch that you don't overload the frying pan.
Right.
Great. And then, as we have here, we have the close-up of the, oh, it's soft. Once they're fried, the eggplants are placed on paper towels to drain.
Okay.
I do think this is one of those recipes that benefits with 2 cooks in the kitchen.
I'll tell you, it certainly does.
Elise is still busy frying eggplant, and I've taken the skins off of all the almonds, spread them out on an aluminum foil-lined cookie sheet, and they're going to go into the oven at 300 degrees for approximately 10 minutes. Would that be enough?
Yeah, it's about 10 to 15 minutes, depending. We'll keep turning them because they soaked a little bit longer than...
So they were wet.
They were
Yeah,
a
so
little
we need
wet.
them to dry out, and then we need them to roast a little bit. All right, so in go the almonds, and Elise will continue frying that eggplant. We'll check back when we see what they look like when they're toasted properly. Cooking is always an adventure, and you learn from your mistakes. So Elise turned over the fry pan for me to take control of, which I did, and I just put this batch of eggplant in the pan before adding additional oil. And it's not frying as quickly. And just a tip so that you don't make the same mistake I made is, if there's enough oil in the pan, the pieces of eggplant are floating. These aren't floating, and I think with the oil deep enough for the floating to occur, the frying happens more rapidly because the whole bottom is frying, whereas now the bottom's sitting on the pan. So you want enough oil, maintain enough oil in the pan so that it stays deep enough so that as the eggplant fries, it floats. So there you go, learn from my mistakes. It's time to start prepping the meat. The eggplants are over there draining, the almonds are getting their last bit of toasting in the oven, and Elise has peeled and cleaned an onion and cut it into thirds and just dropped it in. We're dropping it into a pot of water that contains
6 cups?
6
water.
cups of water. You need 4 of the cups for the rice.
Right.
And the other 2 cups will be absorbed by the stewing of the meat.
Yeah, some will dissipate, so always err on the side of caution, a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to add the spices. We'll start with the salt. So let's get...
Now, the truth be told here, Elise is used to just adding her spices without measuring, so we're kind of groping along here as she estimates. That's, you're looking at a
1.5 of salt.
1.5 teaspoon. Okay, and they are healthy looking teaspoons here. Skimpy.
Here's our allspice.
Okay, so you're going a little light on that. You have a heaping 1/4 teaspoon.
Let me see what it looks like.
Okay, how's it
We'll
look?
have to do another 4.
So then that would be a heaping 1/2 teaspoon of allspice.
Allspice.
Okay,
Cinnamon.
okay. Ooh, that's really heaping.
Yeah.
In fact, that
Okay.
must be a 1/2 teaspoon.
Okay. We love cinnamon.
Okay, so you really have a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon on that.
Okay.
And how does it look? Is that looking good?
Yep.
Alrighty.
Now next is cloves.
And they're very pungent.
Very strong. I'm getting not much of these in there, but just maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon.
Okay, about 1/8 of a teaspoon. Okay.
Okay. And then we'll put in our bay leaf.
Just one?
2 bay leaves.
Oh, 2 bay leaves.
2 bay
Okay.
leaves. Okay. There we
Very
got our
good.
spices.
All right, so the spices go in to the water with the onion, and now we have to take a look at preparing the meat.
Right. So some of these pieces are a little big, like this one I'm going to have to cut. But again, you can see the marbled texture. Those are good.
And go.
All right, some of the pieces are a little large.
Yeah,
All right, so you're cutting it down to, what would you say, inch by inch, 1.5 by an inch?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Elise did explain earlier that she does not want to make these pieces of meat too small, because then they dry out as they cook. It just is too much cooking for a smaller piece of meat. So you need a good sized chunk of stew meat.
And we're just parboiling this, just to absorb the flavor of the bay leaf and the onion.
Mm-hmm.
Because all the spices that we put in here, we will put in with the whole Mahlubay mixture.
Okay.
It will make sense.
So this is just the first seasoning, in other words,
Right.
that seasons the meat,
That's right.
but not seasoning the eggplant yet. We'll be doing that
Right.
later.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because we're not going to put the onion and bay leaf in the whole mixture. Now I think it's time to get out the almonds.
Almonds? Okay, shall I add meat while you do that?
Yep.
Okay, let's take a look at what you think a toasted almond looks like.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
Nice brown color.
Light brown, yep.
Okay. If you see any white, just keep them in there. You gotta, let
These
them-
actually took quite a while. I bet it was the better part of half an hour at that low temperature, don't you think?
Yeah, it was.
20 minutes?
If you put it up too high, it's not an even. You may be tempted to do that, but
You'll get a burnt taste in it too, wouldn't you?
yes.
Wouldn't there be a chance of a burnt
It won't
taste?
be a well-rounded
Okay.
toasting. All right.
All right, so I'll keep putting meat in here.
Yep.
Is this one a little too big, Elise?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll cut it in half. Next step, the pot is on a large burner on a high flame, or if you're using electric, you would use your highest heat. You can see that the water is just enough to cover the meat, and the onions in there, the spices are in there. We're gonna cover this in a heavy pot with a secure lid and let it come to a boil. And we'll talk about the next step. The meat has boiled. When it came to a full boil, Elise turned down the heat into a simmer and let it simmer for approximately 10 minutes or so until she got this, she got it cooked through. So as you can see, you now have a nice broth from the cooked beef, and if you could smell this, the aroma is wonderful. The spices have really done their work. So this step now is to remove the beef, right?
Yep. The beef is gonna go in that pot.
All right, and the onion's gonna be discarded. So we're now moving to a clean, heavy pot.
Oops.
Getting rid of the onion. The onion's put in the boiling for flavor. The bay leaf is removed as well, both bay leaves. First you want to keep all the juice in there,
Oh, yeah.
the seasoned broth. And so I can start to pull this meat out, leaving the broth back here in the original pot. We're ready to do a second session of seasoning.
Yes, we are.
And this is really what will season the eggplant, because it hasn't been seasoned at this point, right?
Correct.
Okay, so where do we go? On the eggplants or what?
Now we're gonna put the seasoning into the broth that the meat came out of.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna add, there's 1 teaspoon of salt. And
2. Okay, a little more salt this time. Okay.
and we're gonna get our allspice.
Half a teaspoon? Rounded.
Rounded.
Yeah, which really makes it close to a teaspoon, but or 3/4 of a teaspoon.
Okay. Here's our cloves.
And
We'll get the little 1/4 teaspoon for that one.
okay, and you're gonna put a
Half of a quarter.
half,
So an eighth.
an eighth of a teaspoon. Okay, you go light on the cloves. They are a strong
Yeah,
wind.
they're really strong.
Right.
And then we get our cinnamon.
Okay.
Did I put that in there before?
I thought you did.
Okay, well, we'll get a heaping 1/4
Mm-hmm.
and a half of another one.
So, what would you say, about a teaspoon? A little under a teaspoon.
I'd say that's about a half a teaspoon.
Okay.
Right?
All right. Okay.
Alrighty, now we have to put our eggplant on top of the beef. Okay, you can see we spread all this beef out, and we're going to evenly place the eggplant on top. Now I have to say that I have more eggplant than I normally do because I didn't have to discard any eggplant. There were hardly any seeds. So normally out of the amount of eggplant I have, I don't have all this good.
So, do you just layer this like?
Yes, we'll evenly place this around.
It's really soft. It's cooked very soft. It looked like it was getting crisp, but it's like slimy soft. Not that I want to make that unappetizing, but it's surprisingly soft.
And we were going to mention about how you could, if you want to make a sandwich out of fried eggplant, you can do that.
Is this a cold sandwich or?
A cold sandwich, you get pita bread, cut it, slice it in half, put on your eggplant with some chopped up tomatoes and parsley, and then you get tahini and add a little bit of lemon and make that like a mayonnaise on your pita bread.
That sounds good, but the thing that surprises me is just how soft the eggplant is. So, but it sounds like it would taste very good. All right, so now when you're done, this is really, look at my fingers, they're
Now
so
we're going to
greasy.
add the rice on top of this.
Okay, so this is a flat layer of the eggplant. Let me go wash my hands.
You go wash your hands and I'll go ahead and add this rice evenly across. Whoop, oh yeah, I lost a few kernels. You'll have that.
And that was a measured 2 cups of white rice, not minute rice. Don't make that mistake.
Oh yeah.
No.
Now we need the cup again, and we're gonna add, the rice is 4 cups of water. Well, it's 2 cups of water for each cup of rice. So we need 4 cups, and then I add a little bit more. Okay. Wait, Miss Janet, I think we have a rogue beef cube in here somewhere.
Uh-oh.
But anyway.
We'll put it on the top as a decoration.
That's almost 1.
Yeah, they're a little scant by using the, oh, there it is.
That's 2.
I can tuck it down.
3.
Oh, there's another one. I did not do a good job of getting those beef cubes out of there. Sorry about that.
That's almost 4. Okay, so that's about 4, and we're gonna add a little bit more for good measure.
Oh, I hate to leave that sauce there. Let me
Now
see.
this makes a nice broth. You should
That's
just
fine.
drink this.
Oh, I can? Oh, I might
Yeah.
give that a try. What should I do with those pieces? Try to
Just
tuck
leave
them
them
in?
there.
Just leave
Just
them
leave them
there?
there.
Okay.
Put it on there. Okay.
Okay.
Then what we have to do is we put this on top
Oh, okay.
because we don't want it to pop out.
All right. Oh,
I always put 2 plates.
2 plates. And it doesn't go to the edge of the pot. Is that okay?
Well, I just don't have them. It's better if you can go to the edge of the pot.
Okay, but we're not set up to do that.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe we can take a look at how it is set up and you get a sense of the proportion of liquid to the solid ingredients in this pot. A little bit close up, right?
Yay! Okay, here you can see how even it is, and here's 2 little decorative pieces of beef.
They were supposed to be underneath, guys, so.
But it will look so nice.
Okay.
Then we'll put these on. And the idea is to make, we're gonna turn this upside down and it should take the shape of a cake. And then we sprinkle the thing else on.
Okay, so
It
this
has
will
to be
help
compact.
it will help it
Stay compact.
stay compact and you're actually going to get a formed,
We hope.
we hope. Okay, so
That's
next
our
step,
goal.
what do we do?
Well, we put this on and we're gonna put it over. We're gonna boil it, bring it to a boil, and then simmer it and cook it just like you would cook rice.
So it'll be about 20 minutes or so.
Right, it'll be a little longer than 20 minutes because,
A little extra liquid in there, right?
exactly.
Okay, well, we're ready to go.
All right.
Well, the juice, the liquid has all been absorbed by the rice. Elise and I both tested the rice and it's nice and tender, it's cooked through. Now for the tricky part. You might want to try this on a flat serving plate. We're going to try it on a serving bowl and just because it might look nice, and if it does fall, it'll just fall to the sides of the bowl. So we'll see. This is the really tricky part
Yes.
for presentation purposes. If it gets a little
We want
sloppy,
it to look like a cake.
yeah, we want it to look like a cake, but if it doesn't look right, it's still going to taste great. Now, Elise, inverts the plate on top of the hot pot.
Drum roll, please.
Okay, and then
Oh my
after you
gosh.
turn it, I'm going to put my hands underneath it to support it, all right?
Okay, see, because it's not really even.
No, it's not laying.
Okay, all right. Ready?
Yes.
1,
Woo-hoo.
2.
Oh, masterful! I didn't even have to help.
Now we're gonna keep it there for a while.
Oh, okay. Well, just good job, Elise. Just a tip. After it was cooked through, Elise let it sit for approximately 10 minutes because you just want to try and get it to kind of be a solid mass when you do this flipping. She took the plates off and let it sit for 10 minutes with the lid off, which I
Yes.
guess allowed a little bit of, the liquid to continue to evaporate. We've done the flipping and you're recommending it sit kind of.
Yeah, I think we could take it off now.
We can
I mean,
take-
it didn't turn real cakey, like I can tell you.
Oh,
that
you
right
can tell
now.
it's not cakey.
It's not gonna be like in a good. It'll just be.
Oh, it looks wonderful.
Looks good.
Oh, it looks wonderful. But if it were perhaps on a flatter plate, it would be mounded more.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you top it off with your almonds.
Which you do a generous amount of almonds. You like those, right?
I like
And so do I. All right. Is it
And I
ready?
keep some on the side
Oh, you do keep some on the side? For
Oh,
what
yeah.
reason?
for me
Oh, for you. Okay.
to add it for later.
To add it for later. Okay, so we're going to serve it with a tossed salad, but before we bring it to the table, let's sneak a taste and see
Okay.
what we think. Okay, you want to put a little on the plate?
Oh, I was just gonna, okay.
Oh, you were
We're
just
our
gonna-
family, you know.
Family style here, yeah.
Okay.
All right, just put a little on the plate. Okay, so when you're serving it, you're scooping some of the rice, some of the beef,
And there's some eggplant.
and there's some
there, too.
eggplant. The eggplant, though, for people, we'll put another piece of meat on so we both have a taste. The eggplant is there, but you don't really know it's there. That's the amazing thing. And
Kind of gets, there's a piece of egg,
yeah, even people that don't like eggplant love this dish.
like me.
Right. All right, I'm going to take a taste with the rice and the eggplant. Those seasonings are wonderful. Very rich, because you had all that beef broth and it's just been absorbed into the rice, the meat itself. Oh, it's hot. It's tender. It's flavorful. Elise, this is a hit.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming to see Aunt Janet's kitchen, in which my sister Elise and I prepared
Mahlubay.
Mahlubay,
And the
and
mouthful.
and we'll have the recipe posted on the website. But right now, we're going to enjoy the fruits of our labor, and I hope you have a chance to make this recipe and check it out at AuntJanet'sKitchen.com.
Bye.
Bye.